panel just now, they like said everything that I need to say, so thank you. All right, I just want to be clear. So I'm not up here because I have an engineering degree or an MBA. I think that the reason that maybe I was the right person to stand up this practice from nothing is because I have a special relationship with fear, I think. So I'm an extreme skier, I'm a figure skater, and I'm kind of used to flinging myself into the air. But what I learned actually as a little kid is that the fact that I am scared is irrelevant to what I'm about to do. And so for me, the fear lives kind of like right here, because if I let it stop me, first of all, if any of you do skiing or figure skating, if you hesitate, you're going to get really badly hurt. I think that's why perhaps I'm the person that ended up doing this. So let's start. What I've learned along the way, which I will weave into this and perhaps we can take away together, is when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting something new, and yes, Walmart is the largest retailer, but I didn't really think about that at the time. I just thought about what I wanted to bring to the organization. So being bold, for me, means the people around you are counting on you not to hesitate. They all have what they do at their day jobs, and if you get them excited about this technology, they're like, cool, you got to do it, so please do it. But the other thing is to be humble and understand that this, meaning whatever you're trying to accomplish, will never be as important to anyone else as it is to you. To remember that every day. So your job isn't to convince somebody to feel the same way you do. That's never going to happen. This is your passion. But at the same time, also recognize that your excitement also represents someone else's risk. So I try to keep all of that in mind. And then the other thing is to find your Yoda. Somebody that's going to listen really well and speak to you honestly and inspire you. I was lucky because I have 2 Yodas that I found at Walmart. All right. So these are some numbers that I'm proud of. So from having no consumer-facing 3D practice that makes consumer-facing content, I distinguish that from the fact that we have amazing learning and development XR, we have product development that uses 3D, but this is what we show to consumers. So we have, after 5 years, we have 25,000 digital twins. So that's products. We also have probably that many props as well as environments. I define digital twin as literally a digital twin of something real. If I create a room that's never existed, I call that a 3D model. So then from there, we probably have 5,000 unique environments that we've built. Living rooms, dining rooms, patios, things like that. And then since I started this from 0, the business, meaning the output of number of assets, has tripled year over year for 5 years. Now, I have made it clear that that is probably not going to continue. And then 14 represents the number of people I have on my team. We just talked about how do you determine if you have an outside vendor or an inside team. I determined very quickly that given how fast technology moves, having an internal team, I could never scope that in the right way. So what I have on staff are art directors and stylists and operational people in service to the creative brief. We're doing the upholstered living room event. So my team does that art direction and that styling as an input to our 3D vendors. 8 is the number of business units for which we now do work, which is great because I started with 1, which was home. And yes, it's the largest one, but that's just awesome to me that we've broken into those new businesses. 4 million is the dollar amount that I can point to having saved the company over the last 5 years. And what that exactly means is every time my team can create an image using 3D models, as opposed to what we would call in-camera or photo studio, every time we do that, I get to give money back to the allocation. Because believe me, if Walmart just wanted to save money on photography, they would just do less photography. But so these are numbers I'm very proud of. I didn't scope them or project them, but this is where we are. But where it all started. So Yoda number 1. Anthony Suhu, who's in charge of the home vertical. It's the largest vertical at Walmart. I worked for him when I first started, but I came into the company as the director of brand and creative innovation for HeyNeedle.com. They make higher end furniture. So they were an acquisition. So my first week, he says to me, hey, go out to Omaha, which is where they're located. We have a new photo studio because they have one. We need to start servicing all of Walmart. So can you see if we can optimize it, get more shot count out of them? And then I want a 3 to 5 year strategy for photography for home. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do any of that, but okay. So I went out to Omaha, and the first thing I noticed was their turn rate was really, really high. I just realized, I think this is an older version of the deck. That's okay, we're gonna be good. So their turn rate was really low, meaning that they would take in samples and then they would put them on a shelf. And I found out they would leave them on the shelf for a minimum of 16 months. So that was unacceptable. So we quickly moved all of that out faster, created another set, got the optimization up, got a higher shot count, and all of that was great. And while I was there, we were setting up Drew Barrymore has a really beautiful line of home goods called Flower Home. We were setting up for that campaign several rooms, and lots of noise and stuff around you when you're doing something like this, and it takes, here are some of the stats. It took 18 weeks from the first concept all the way through shooting it. So custom set pieces, travel for the clients, broken samples, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking, when I get back, I'm gonna find the 3D team. Because this can't be. We're the world's largest retailer and we're hammering nails into wood, and for instance, in the dining room, 1 chair arrived. So you can imagine we had to shoot it 6 different times to get the chairs around. So I was like, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna tell him, this was the first slide I gave him. Yes, theoretically yes, and no. I think saying no is natural. You guys are hired for your critical thinking, among other things. So I said to him, yes, we can and did optimize the Omaha studio. I got you 3,000 more shots per year or per month. Theoretically, yes, I can tell you how many more studios to rent, how big they should be, but I do not think that you should do that, and I don't want you to do that ever. What I want us to be doing is 3D. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna go find the 3D team and incorporate that. So he says, I totally agree. I go ahead and do that. And I'm like, well, I want to find the 3D team. And he's like, you're it. And I was like, okay. And he's like, let's pilot this thing. How much money do you need? And I'm like, well, I hadn't calculated that. So I came up with something. He's going to watch this maybe and go, you made that up? So I came up with something, and I knew it was a pilot. So again, we talked about this in terms of how can I move quickly? And I knew that I couldn't move quickly if I did hay needle scenes, because the number of scenes they were doing in 3 months when I wanted to do this pilot was going to be too little, too slow. So I needed to, once he told me to go ahead and do it, I'm going to skip that. Once he told me to do it, this is really funny. I love how I'm testing myself at slide etiquette here. Okay, so I was also at the same time hired to be the creative director and brand director at art.com, because everybody has more than 3 jobs at Walmart. So art.com produces a printed catalog 4 times a year. And I thought if I could convince them to use 3D instead, that would be a big win. Yoda number 2. Frank Barbieri, who is the president of art.com, for whatever reason, maybe it was because I told him, instead of spending $500,000 for 4 catalogs a year, what if I could do it for $40,000? That was probably appealing to him. But we went full 3D. And it was the smartest thing that ever happened, because of this body of work, and if I do say so myself, it's beautiful. Because of this body of work, I can continue to convince people, no matter what business unit it is, because this is a printed catalog, you hold it this close to your nose, and nobody can tell me, well, it doesn't look real. Yeah, it does. So this is the best piece of new business collateral that I ever produced. Now, the results were good. I thought, well, what happens if people start calling and going, that looks fake? That didn't happen. In fact, I felt really badly because one of the office scenes I did, a woman called asking how she could buy the chair, and it was like, That doesn't exist. I like made it up. So that was good. So then people started to find out, I'm still working for home, people started to find out that I did this project and that I had some 3D models. And the team at the time called Walmart Connect, they were going to do an AR test with Facebook. So they're like, we hear you have some furniture models. And I've got a few. So they literally, I think we did just a couple dozen. And we did an AR test. She did an AR test. And it performed really well. And now she's a big partner. And of course, enterprise AR is a big deal. But we're going back 4 years or so. And just when I thought, hey, like everyone is getting on board, fish are jumping in the boat, to a horrible expression. But then I realized when you're an entrepreneur, every day is like fourth down. Because I can do the best work that I can do, and some people are just not going to get on board. I don't like to recreate a real photo to show it off. That's like a parlor trick, because every time I'm going to be able to do it. But this person said, if you do this, maybe. Well, I'm not going to tell you which one's the photo, but clearly, and she still to this day says no. That's fine. That's fine. Then it was like, okay, you're building models, and Anthony, my Yoda number 1, was like, this is great. Now I need you to scale it and prove the value. And again, I'm like, me? Okay, all right. So I started doing road shows, evangelizing, showing some of the work we had done. My goal has always been to build more and more and more models, because if you have assets, you can do anything. So that the pretty pictures are great, but we're never going to do 12 million of those. And in the home category, we have more than 12 million transactable SKUs. I'm not going to make 12 million models. That's not going to happen. But models are where it's at. Then I got lucky, because we did a beautiful campaign for Walmart Home for fall. It had like 18 different rooms. It was beautiful exteriors. And so I like to kind of ping the merchants, like, how's it going? And this merchant said to me, it's going great. Like, after one day, this pillow already sold out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to blow her mind right now. I said, really? Would you like me to replace it with something that's in stock? She's like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah. Because you already modeled 8 other pillows for the bedroom scene and the living room scene. Which one would you like? And overnight, I gave her the bottom one. And so for the customer, it's a good experience. For her, I'm like, maybe this one will sell out. I said, call me if it does, because I can give you the next pillow. So this was an amazing, amazing use case, which led to more things like that. Now people were starting to understand the value and the reality that instead of, as a merchant, and so we're doing a TV console event, instead of having to go, okay, which one console do I take to the photo studio and shoot? Well, now it was like, no, how many do you have in the event? 8? Good, I'll model them all. And on each individual product page, you'll be able to show the customer that particular console, not a console in general that you can imagine the other one being in the image. So things continue to build upon themselves. And now I'm having a blast. Then I decided, it's really funny. Anyway, this is an eye chart. Let me explain this. I'll just sell it with voice. So Hayneedle does not have an app. So while all the excitement is going on in the company about AR, they cannot participate. But they have a customer that's actually a little bit more sophisticated. So I thought, what can I do with all the models I now have? Something interesting that can, again, prove the value of these models and get people to make more. Also, I'm an old school UX designer, and I'm an online shopper. And so, one of the sad things is we do these beautiful images, and we put them online, and oh great, I'm so inspired. Then I scroll past it, right? I scroll right past it, and now I'm trying to shop with these individual products. I can't remember what it is, and that's not good for the customer. And then the other thing that happens is that the merchant, again, the merchant has to, in that image, even if I've created it for them, I have to choose what is going to be in that hero. And so I wanted to give the merchant some more power. I wanted to give the consumer a better experience. What if they never had to scroll? What if I could do all of those swaps real time in the hero. And on mobile, this is especially mobile web. Again, they didn't have an app. So I created this thing. It didn't have a very, interesting internal name. I think we called it real-time config. I also didn't know that it was going to work. I thought that it would. So what we were able to do, this is really like bad fidelity, but what happened was we tested it against Shop the Look. So people look to they have a hot spot and you roll over it and get product info. So from a form factor, I thought people were sort of used to seeing these white dots. And then testing it against that, we did one of the images that already existed. We actually did 8 of them. So I'm using assets that already exist. Yoda number 1 gave me more money to do a pilot, less money than before. So we did a beautiful original image. Again, I had all these product models I had already made. And so what would happen is the consumer would hover over one of the items, and then in real time, it would change to that item. So they were able to kind of do this really fun play. They would play with the image. They never had to leave the image, but they could shop. And the merchant in that tray, the merchant could control what was in that tray. Now, it didn't automate it because it was just a pilot, so they had to paying attention 24/7. But if something sold out, they could replace it. If something wasn't being clicked on, like when people are not liking the blonde linen chair, they just pull it out. So for the merchants, this was great. They had control. They could see about consumer behavior. And I didn't know how it was going to perform. So I actually, in my pitch, the pilot, I didn't sign up for anything except let's see what happens. And because I didn't ask for very much money, that was okay. So I can't say actual numbers, but I would say at least 10x on every factor. I was actually shocked. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. So again, a way like how can I show the value of a 3D model library that gets bigger and bigger and bigger? So this is going to be fun because I don't know what slide's coming next. Aha, okay. So then adding to that and showing the photo studio how I can be a good partner, which is important, I said, you guys, you work on stuff which we call always on, like cold and flu season, cat food, laundry detergent, things that you would consume up and need more. So I said, do you really like building bathroom counters and kitchen counters and pantries all year long, like many, many times over, and you have to use the cheapest tile? What if I could build you a library of 100 of each of those, let me model all of your vitamins, and then just call up my team when you need something and we can quickly assemble it. And the photo studio gets hundreds of thousands of dollars of relief that they can put towards something else. So this to me, again, another use case of what we can do with models. Give me more models, I give you more money back. Then I also started to show where we could reuse the room structures as well. And people don't believe it until they see it. They're like, people are going to be able to tell. I'm like, no, they're not going to be able to tell. I mean, first of all, they don't run side by side at the same time. But I showed them how with the existing library, you could change the room type. You could also do tests. Keep the same room, change the hero, and randomize it and see what people are buying. How am I doing on time?
5 minutes.
Oh, great. Okay, I'm not even going to show the next slide. The thing that happens next, now I have 10 to 15,000 individual product models. The enterprise AR guys are making models. Now I find out there's people all over the company making models. Well, what are we going to do? So we decided that we were going to have a single source of truth at the world's largest retailer, which means we have a single point of failure. But we decided the only way that we're going to achieve scale in a way that we can show value is to create the digital twin once. So we talked about file formats in the last session. Create it once, write that white paper, and this is the first time when I've had to be kind of stern, because it takes more time to make high quality model, and the AR guys or guys that are building the stores, people that don't need that fidelity are like, oh, I don't need to make the model like that. But I truly believe that real-time AR, very quickly, maybe even like later today, you're going to be able to move that thing with high poly. You are not going to need to decimate a file ever. I believe that. So you have to start high poly. And then you have to think about opening up the APIs to someone like my friend from Nestle over there, from Hershey's over there, so they can push and pull, my friend from Trex. People have to be able to push and pull, and we don't like to open up our gate to anyone. You have to be able to have a search catalog that people can see. You have to match metadata. Anyway, it's a mess. It's a mess, and this is the hardest thing that I've had to do, and I have no idea how long it's going to take, but I know we have to do it. Anybody a musician? This was like going to be kind of a hackneyed thing where I'm like, it's like writing a symphony. You have to write different parts, and everything has to come together. I'm just not going to do that. Then, okay, I know you only have like 2 minutes. Have to tell this story. Because you can get a little bit ahead of yourself. You can be like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I am going to take this thing all the way up. I'm not going to be CEO, but he's going to invite me to lunch. I am sure of it. The call is coming any day. Then I find out the product development team makes the most pitch perfect 3D models you have ever seen. They are glorious. I'm like, because they have to be, they're developing products. And I was like, I want those, like the apparel team. Can I have those? Because I could put that in the closet of something else I'm doing. And we're like, yay! And you were like, we're gonna be great. And then all of a sudden we realized she's got probably 75,000 apparel models sitting. We use Browseware, that's not a secret. She's got those models sitting, and we're all excited at what we're gonna do. And then she was like, oh yeah, no, they don't have a SKU number assigned to them yet. So I was like, okay, all right, that means that your whole identifier system is different than the retail side. So that's dead in the water. Yes, we can fix it going forward, but I don't know. So that was like, oh my God. Also, someone talked about QC from Herman Miller, right? No matter what, AI can get us, even if it's 97% there, for retail, you have to have human eyes. So when it comes to scaling, this is a difficult conversation because everyone's all excited about headless and making models with AI, and we can make like 1,000 every 10 seconds. And I'm like, that's true, but I still have to have someone look at it. And that's hard news. But anybody that works in retail, that's just simply the truth. Because I don't know if we can teach the thing fast enough to recognize the one that's wrong. I have no idea. But we can if we look at it. Okay, how am I doing now? Out of time? Okay, hold on. One really important thing. This was all so good. No, it's okay. It was all so good. I wanted to hit on sustainability because that is my passion. Because I believe if we can do something in 3D and we don't, we got to look ourselves in the mirror. We really should be doing everything we can in 3D because it's good for the environment, whatever it is. Luckily our CEO came out and said that we are on a path to be regenerative, putting humans and the planet first. That's my best argument when I go to try. Now I'm like, well, Doug said to do it, so it's a little bit easier. But this is very, very important. It's a reason to invest in it. Because if I can mitigate returns, if I don't ship a sample to the photo studio, that's cool, that saves. But if I can mitigate return, think about how the pattern repeats. If you have to bring back that item, you're getting in your car, you're bringing it back, Walmart has to ship it somewhere with more plastic and more cardboard. So mitigating returns, as we know, AR helps with that, being able to spin the product. Can I just touch on AI for a second? Sure. Okay, that's my last thing. Because we have to talk about this. So Gen AI imagery, every traditional creative goes, when you say that. Gen AI imagery, we are not doing consumer facing. There's all kinds of reasons for that. But my team has been finding interesting use cases, and I want to talk about 2 of them. One of the things that drives me nuts is that when you get an assignment, this is going back as well. I need you to do a coastal living room. Everything is derivative. Where do you go? You go to Pinterest to find one, you go to Google search, you used to go look in magazines, and that's why it's called swipe. And then you show that to the photographer or whoever. This is kind of like what I want to do. Well, it's so derivative. I've seen rooms out there that I know they looked at my room to do their room. It's all good. So my team uses Gen AI imagery to create original inspiration imagery. This has never existed before. And by the way, it took my art director 1 minute, and before she would spend hours and hours and hours trying to get something that kind of looked like what she wanted. Second thing, and then I'm done. Whew. Okay, so it breaks my heart that I have to send something to the photo studio and can't do it in 3D because I'm missing a reference image and I can't make the model. This happens too often. So what we've started to do with my team is use GenAI imagery to make the missing reference image. So this was a case where we wanted a Himalayan salt container, but the shot was going to be done overhead, the one on the bottom. Well, we didn't have a shot of it overhead. So we, in like 5 seconds, we had the product info, the material, the color of the salt. We created that. And that's a great use case. Thank you. Whew. All right, we don't have time for questions. So if you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If I don't get back to you right away, it doesn't mean that I don't value you and you're not important. You are. It just am bad about checking sometimes. All right, thank you.